First of all, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for playback at a later date, hopefully by the end of the week, and we will keep you posted on that. That is available to everybody listening, and of course you are free to share that with your teams. I also want to let you know that a couple things about your dashboard. First, we will be taking questions to be addressed at the end of the webinar. Please feel free throughout the webinar to ask whatever question comes to mind about a particular slide or something Barbara says, and just type that in your question section. I will be keeping track, and I will pose them to Barbara at the end in the Q&A section. We will not be calling on people. I will turn off the hand raise function momentarily, and we will not be taking questions verbally. We'll just be taking them via the questions section. I also wanted to let you know we'll be conducting a couple of polls over the course of the webinar, so we will just let you know we're launching the poll, launch it, it will appear on your screen, and all you should have to do is just click your answer. If an answer doesn't come to you or it's not applicable to you, please feel free to disregard the poll. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce Barbara Meyers-Ford, who it has been my pleasure to work with on this webinar series, and I'm going to turn the mic over to her.
Thanks very much, Jennifer, and hello everyone. It's certainly my pleasure and privilege to be working with my great DCL colleagues on this ambitious three-part seminar series. I especially want to thank my colleagues Linda Fasola and Brian Trombley for reaching out so that we might create this educational experience, as well as Jennifer for her solid program management and marketing. Mark Gross and I have known each other for many a year, and it's always wonderful to work with him, so I look forward to sharing this seminar space with him next month. As the title presents, our series focuses on professional societies and their publishing programs. This month, I'm examining society management in general, followed by how those in publishing programs can build from there and work through some new management approaches. These are concepts I have discussed with executive directors and other senior management staff over the years, but using very different vocabulary from my comments now. As a live example of the importance of embracing open innovation and creative strategies, I prepared today's content based on the more formal terminology and framework of academics and practitioners in the field of management. I hope that it will prove as intellectually exciting for you as it has been for me over the last 3 decades, and even more so as I develop these seminars. Next month, on October 30th, we will drill deeper into the areas covered today. I will expand on the strategies we cover and recommend ways to develop tactics for their implementation. Mark will present an overview of DCL's work in the area of technological support and partnership with its society clients, followed by a few case studies. And finally, we will wrap up on November 20th with presentations on the importance of partnerships and provide some insights and guidelines for you to find the right technology partner for your society and its publishing program. Many of you have seen the Pogo cartoon claiming, "The enemy is us." Indeed, that is certainly true in many situations, and as is exemplified by this cartoon's lampooning of procrastination. That often occurs in organizations when it comes to acknowledging the need to survive in and past our current environment. In other words, the need to evolve. Organizational evolution is not a frequent discussion topic among senior management. Words like manage, development, and growth are more often heard as managers plan their reactions to external change. What is missed often is the need for internal awareness of what it takes to live through any external change. For our industry, the most monumental change has been the application of the computer, followed by a series of advancing technologies born from that invention. Although Nietzsche's well-known adage, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," has been proven true on the individual level, it has been my experience with many clients that it does not always hold true for organizations trying to survive the changes in technology and the increased pace of that change. For several years, my tagline for Meyers Consulting Services was, "Your survival kit for the future." Little did I know that what I was advising my clients would one day be formalized by Harrison Kober and Mary Byers in their recent book, Face for Relevance, 5 Radical Changes for Associations. The scope of this seminar doesn't allow me to delve into all 5 of their change areas. I have starred those relevant to today's discussion as we focus on our member communities and how well we might serve them and evolve into more vibrant, valuable organizations. Members are more often viewed as stakeholders versus customers. In fact, members are changing as much as their environment demands, and thus are looking at their professional societies with new expectations. They don't want to hear from us that how they want to receive information, products, services, and other benefits can't be changed because it's difficult to do so. They aren't interested in new benefits that don't relate to what they do or who they are. More is not always better. 1 or 2 truly better benefits are better. You need to not just focus on the member of today, but on the member of the future. Anticipating members' needs is critical for you to have the time to develop ideas, test their feasibility, then launch and promote them successfully. The member market of the future is not what you hope it to be. You need to learn what it has the most probability of being. When was the last time your organization updated its member profile and provided it to staff in a way that displayed and explained the shifts over time which were created by the evolution of your discipline? How have the various ways you segment your membership changed? Or worse, not changed, because you didn't respond to change among the members? Have you been tracking and updating your assumptions about members? Do you know what they want now as compared to what you have been giving them for years? And what they would likely want soon that you have yet to start thinking about, no less developing? As I mentioned, the evolution and shifts in your discipline will be mirrored in how individual members act. There will be changes in what they prefer in terms of products and services because of where their research is taking them. There will be changes in what they do in terms of what they expect your society to provide them in light of what they are being provided elsewhere. And based on these changes and how well you monitor them, there should be variations from what assumptions you held in the past to those you now hold in the present with regard to where your members might be in the near future. You need to carefully examine your roster of current benefits and see which have true value. How many members are taking advantage of each benefit versus how much it costs to provide that benefit? And the costs are not just financial. There are opportunity costs associated with taking large amounts of staff time to provide benefits to a few members versus using that time to serve many members. Like the Pareto principle, commonly known as the 80-20 rule, you will likely learn that subtracting benefits serving only a small percentage of the membership will leave you with a core set that will allow you to evolve and provide a higher level of responsiveness to your members. By retaining benefits of greatest value to your members, your organization should evolve to a higher level of responsiveness and increase the effectiveness, improve the efficiency, and thus increase the value to your members. That should improve retention and increase the market share of your prime audience. The concept of this lasting model, held by many, not just me, has been acknowledged as sound by management and professional organizations for decades. Levin cited a critically important fact back in 1990 with regards to recognizing the "they do this for a living" needs of members, and this has been acknowledged as sound by management and professional organizations for decades. I especially like CERC's more recent understanding of the relationship between a membership and its professional organization. How often do constructs such as these form the basis for your staff discussions when you are trying to determine how best to serve your membership? These management principles for membership organizations are not to be relegated to the office of the executive director or the membership division. The entire organization must take this awareness as context for its move into a more evolved state by wisely applying and capitalizing on developments in technology. Thinking beyond just your publishing operation, where is your entire organization in making technology an integral part of its operations, or as we in publishing so often reference, the transition to a digital environment? Jennifer will now orchestrate a quick poll to see where you are as a self-selected sample of our industry.
Okay, our poll is open. Please feel free to vote. You may vote once, and I will let you know when the voting is winding down, and then we will close and share the poll. We have a lot of participation here. Thank you so much. Okay, still moving. And we're going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. And now I will share those results.
I see that we have a very traditional bell curve in our responses, and I am very excited to see that the majority have started and are close to completing even some of this transition to digital. So as we move forward, I hope that some of the ideas and recommendations I provide you will help those of you just getting started, but also those of you who are still ongoing and those of you who have completed it, because it's really important to still maintain the momentum that you've created throughout your organization in terms of integrating digital information. Jennifer?
My apologies there. One second. There we go. I took the wrong option on the panel there. All right, and now we're going to move along.
Next slide, please. Jennifer?
Yes?
Could you go to the next slide, please?
Oh, yes, I'm on the next slide, but I'm on
the wrong one.
Okay, hold on one second.
That's fine.
Just having a screen sharing issue, sorry. Biggest challenge?
That's right.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Perfect. We're back on track. And that often happens whenever we're doing any kind of work in our industry. So those of us who've served on staff or provided them with services know that my earlier slide about this is how we've always done it can be coupled with it's not really broken, so let's not fix it, to explain the biggest challenge to organizational evolution and innovation, and that is the aversion to change. It will be important to realize that as technological innovation demands change in your policies, processes, and procedures, you mustn't let traditionalists cling to how it used to be and block your progress. So now that we've talked a little bit about innovation and evolution at the organizational level, let's look now at how the Society Publishing Program integrates into that larger whole. Entering our industry in the 1970s, change has been a landscape of my career and my peer groups, and we've tried to stay on top of change to the best of our ability. One might think that with all the information now available at our fingertips, that challenge would have evolved into a simpler task. And I suspect you are thinking right now, that chance, it's even more complex. And you are right. To stay current now, a professional must read books on an ever-increasing number of subjects, journal articles reporting research results in specific areas for immediate application, news sources carrying opinions about how or why something dramatic happened in publishing, management, finance, technology, or how a project may have finally played out. We also need to keep track of blogs and postings to LinkedIn groups, Google+, Facebook pages, websites. On the screen now is a quote from one of my valued newsletters, Publishing Perspectives, which reported earlier this year the quote that is an explanation by Timo Bozeman, one of Europe's top digital publishers, for issuing what he calls a multi-platform title. The new book, Earned Attention, by Klaus Wima, is a guide to brand building in the digital age with case studies of over 40 companies, and naturally comes with a corresponding set of apps, blogs, and social media threads, and, as per 21st Century Publishing, will be regularly updated with fresh content. Are you considering adding complementary materials like that with any of your publications? Something to think about. So let's take a minute for you to think which one of your publications, in good health or ill, that might be considered a candidate for evolving into a true example of 21st century publishing. Jennifer will now start another quick poll with a two-part question.
So the way this will appear on your screen is as one poll followed by another poll. So the first poll will answer this question specifically, what is your publication? And I'm launching it now. It's very short. Thank you all so much for participating. We're slowing down, so I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1, and share those results.
Okay, we see that the majority of you have selected a book, and I'm going to assume for the purposes of our moving forward that the 1/3 of the respondents are looking at something that is electronically based. And that may be wrong, in which case please do bring that up in the question and answer period. So Jennifer, could you now go and move to the second part of this poll?
Yes, pardon me one moment while I move back and forth between the slides and the panel. Our second question is, why did you select that publication? As you can see, we have 5 different selections to choose from. So I'm going to hide the previous poll, and now we're going to launch, why did you select that publication? And these answers are a little longer, so take your time to look them over, and we'll give you an extra minute to respond. Okay, again, many of you have voted. Thank you so much, and I'll be closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. And we're closed, and now let's share those results.
Okay, so you're focusing on the most important book within your publishing program for the most part. And it looks like we're also looking at challenges in the areas of content and technology. So my remarks coming up should prove to be very helpful because we are looking at the importance and the relevance of what we're doing in publishing to the critical core of your community, which is your most active and connected members. So let us move forward now in thinking about what we're dealing with as we move through our technological changes. For as long as I can remember, the application of computer technology to the publishing process, now often referred to as new publishing technologies, has caused us stress. When the Society for Scholarly Publishing held its first top management roundtable in 1981, which some of you may remember was the year the desktop PC was introduced, 50 leaders from our industry joined together to hear about the latest in electronic publishing, what we then called photocomposition. I heard my colleagues for the first time lamenting anticipated negative impacts of electronic publishing on both the print journal and books and the future of our small niche in the large world of publishing. While some are still on a death watch for print, others are considering that it will become just one in a mix of technologies that, like radio, TV, audio, and video formats, PDF, HTML, cellular technology, PDAs, mobile devices, digital photography, HD, the Web 1.0, and still others, will all find their place in how we create and disseminate information. It is a historical fact that few technologies totally disappear from use as a new one is added. Instead, we find an alternative use for the old, even if old is only a matter of a few years ago. So, as Jim Collins proposes here, we need to think differently about technology. We must take what we learned from our research. You can go on to the next slide, Jennifer, about how to provide valuable and useful benefits to our members and couple that with what we are learning every day about how new technologies can help us evolve into an organization which can effectively and efficiently provide those benefits. Kover and Byers extol membership organizations to adopt and exploit technology, specifically information and communication technologies, and make them integral components in how they function and perform. The earlier slides from their Race for Relevance book noted that the effective association of the future will be substantially technology-based. From our polls earlier, we see that the majority of your organizations recognize that. The challenge is to implement and maintain that. By becoming technology-based, Harrison and Mary suggest that membership organizations will be able to innovate in programmatic areas such as governance meetings, annual conferences, trade shows, and educational programming, and, as we all know, publishing. They explain that in the past, members needed to physically come to the society to participate. Now, with mobile technology, the society can take its programs to the members wherever they happen to be. I strongly agree that it is now difficult to ignore the fact that nearly every function can be done by technology. This seminar is a literal case in point. But as we look to the future, one management adage admonishes that failure to plan is planning to fail. Often the reason people fail to plan is because developing plans implies future action, and with future action you run the risk of failure. It is critical that as an industry and as individuals, we develop a mindset that supports planning designed to incorporate technology by recognizing and accepting risk. We can no longer be risk averse. We must throw off inappropriate conservatism and recognize that to evolve, to innovate, means that not every outcome will be excellent. The need to accept failure as a part of the process is essential. I know that will be a very tough sell to your board of directors. We need to provide well-researched information via thoughtful and creative plans to those charged with making top-level decisions. And in those plans, we need to provide for the additional resources necessary for successful applications of technology. We must be alert and not hesitate to act before others take advantage of opportunities. Our procrastination is our enemy, as we looked at the start. And finally, no matter how much a society's culture is member-centric, as stewards of the organization, you and senior management must diminish extreme influences. So one of my primary goals when working with society publishers is to help them become leaders of change for their organizations. To lead change, you must recognize, I'm sorry, Jennifer, would you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. To become a leader of change is tough. You must realize that you need to take yourself out of your comfort zone. You need to go and work in a very different way with your colleagues. You have to create a coalition in order to support each other in moving forward and creating an operation that is in fact focused on the use of technology, not its creation. You need to definitely be reality-based, but at the same time inspirational to both staff and governance. In essence, I like to think that you need to be a realistic optimist. And it's so important to maintain open lines of communication, which is sometimes tough when you're dealing with staff because you have the initial reaction to not want to get them too excited about a project if you're not quite sure it may go through. But by the same token, they might have some wonderful ideas to share with you. And when obstacles do come up, you need to confront and surmount them, not back off. And you need to sustain the motivation in staff by letting them know about short-term achievements, and that way they recognize that this won't be done in a day. It will take time to accomplish your total transformation. Except that this transformation also is not really complete. Half of you said that you had in fact completed your digital transformation. But I think it's important to realize that that digital transformation is not yet complete until it continues into the next generation of leadership, into the next group of staff in charge of managing your operation. So as part of being a leader of change, I urge you to explore new concepts such as open innovation. I've worked at organizations with the attitude of non-acceptance to anything. That is NTOH, not thought of here. In the 21st century, that will send you back to using bear skins and stone knives. Successful managers are learning what marketers have done for ages, and that's steal good ideas. They base their actions on the idea that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But at its essence, the mindset of marketers allows them to be open to ideas outside their own organization and to take what is good, adapt it, and make it their own. This is the first premise put forth by Chesbrough, followed closely by rights management, a concept near and dear to all our hearts. And finally, innovation of services. This last area has become a recurring theme throughout this seminar, and we'll revisit it again in the series. Continuing an admittedly surface examination of Chesbrough's business modeling, I urge you to think about where your organization falls along his 6 stages of maturity. Are you at stage 1, treating your programs, products, and services as pure commodities to be merely bought and sold freely as an article of commerce, like bananas? Do you have a differentiated business model where you price to some extent on value rather than cost? And this is very difficult to sustain over time and may be the cause for some one-hit wonders, as they're called, or other problems faced by society publishers. If you're operating at stage 3, you should be experiencing more flexibility and long-term robustness. The stage 4 model begins to exercise the principle of openness that is the critical part to this presentation on evolution and innovation. By moving outside just the society circle and to begin to incorporate ideas and technologies from others. Going a step further takes you to stage 5 and a true balancing of internal and external components to your business model. And this is a pretty good model to follow. But Chesbrough encourages you to do one better and try, as he calls it, the best model I can think of. And this is the platform innovation model. His examples of this approach to business are Apple, Procter & Gamble, and Amazon. How might society publishers leverage technology of the successes of these companies? Jennifer is going to manage one last poll to learn at which stage of maturity your organization is operating.
Hi, we're actually going to go to that poll in 1 minute. We are actually having a technical problem with the polling here, so I'm going to ask what we could do instead, Barbara, is we could have people answer with the number in the questions over the next couple of minutes, and then I can just report back what the results are.
That would be just fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, so everyone please take a look at your questions bar. I would really love to get you to get practice with this anyway, since you'll be asking us lots of questions at the end in the Q&A. Take a quick look over the 6 stages of maturity and give an estimate based on the numbers of how mature your society's publishing business. And a number is sufficient. Don't feel like you have to go into an explanation. And I'm going to give you about, think it over. I'll give you a minute or two to respond. Okay, Barbara, what I'm seeing so far is a vast majority of 3s.
Okay.
Combining both commodity and differentiated elements, but let's give everybody 1 more minute to respond. Okay, and we're going to close out, and let's give you 5 seconds this time. I know this is a more challenging question to consider. So we're going to close out in 3, 2, 1. And what we're seeing in the results is interesting to me, Barbara, and I'd love to hear your take on it. It seems to be pretty much an even split up the middle, an equal number relatively of 5, 4, and 3.
Okay. Well, I think that really is quite reflective of what we've been seeing in a few of the other polls. because we have a group that is relatively far along the continuum of becoming very technology-based organizations, not just in publishing, but hopefully throughout their societies. And I'm especially happy to hear that their advancements and their developments have been because they have been very responsive to being open and incorporating external ideas and technology. So I'm hoping that what we are sharing with them today and will be sharing over the next 2 months will continue to reinforce and help them maintain their momentum and go hopefully up to the next level, not just in these stages of maturity, but as we see on the next slide, another approach that's put forth by William Duncan. And he has a very recent book that's come out this summer that's focused on what he calls creative strategy. So this particular strategy is predicated on his research combining business and neuroscience. It allows you then to have a roadmap, as it were, to addressing areas within your membership where you fall short. And the steps are very straightforward. A lot of times this is how we always start in our deliberations to do something new in our organizations. We acknowledge our problem, we break it into parts, we search for solutions, and Dugan is looking at past examples of solutions outside your organization, and that's really I think the biggest challenge that he is throwing out to us. Of course, being in the publishing business, you have an expertise in searching, and of course that will be tested, but it will be worth it. And then finally, his creative strategy combines the various parts and solutions. And one of the techniques that I've used in the past with great success that may be very applicable here is called idea generation. And I'll get into more detail about that next month when we work on trying to create tactics for implementation. So finally, in our next couple of slides, I want to leave you with some recommendations on how to become open or become even more open to those of you who have obviously demonstrated that you've gone up several rungs of the open ladder. First, at the organizational level, you need to be willing to face the probability that you need to re-examine how valuable your programs, your products, your services, in essence, your benefits, really are to your community, which has evolved, as we all know, in many different ways. And at the program level, I strongly suggest that you take to heart the major points that I've covered throughout this seminar, that there's a distinct importance to thinking differently. It will support your ability to experiment and innovate. It will allow you to recognize that we do not have to be the creators of technology or even the stewards, but can focus more on applications. The tough part, of course, is accepting risk and to lead change by example. I think that that will be the one of the most difficult areas for everyone to move forward in on an individual level. And we'll continue to delve into these areas even more. So during our October seminar, I'll refocus our examination of what we've covered today to review even more concrete ways you can work towards joining the evolution and innovating successfully. Next month, Mark Gross, president of DCL, will share his knowledge and experience in our industry and provide you with a more technology-based perspective. Next slide, Jennifer. As a technology partner...
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. as a technology partner, Mark will share with you his experience, some case studies, and we hope that all of you will join us once again and perhaps recommend the next 2 seminars in our series to a colleague or two. So thank you for participating both before and during this presentation, and Jennifer will now take over the proceedings.
Hi again, Barbara. Thank you so much for such a wonderful webinar. We are taking questions and answers now, so please again use your question bar. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, in which time I will basically do our public service announcement. Again, the webinar will be disseminated, will be available at dclab.com. If you don't have time to write down the information that you see, you will be able to access it there. But here's Barbara's contact information. I'm going to leave that up for a minute, so anyone who's interested can see that. I'm going to speak very briefly about DCL and what we do here, and then we'll open the floor up to questions. So there's Barbara's contact information. Again, you can get to this, you'll be able to get to this through our website, dclab.com, and that information will be up at the very end. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Data Conversion Laboratory. We are really, well, actually, first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Meyers Consulting Services. Barbara has been serving the scholarly and professional community since 1983. As you can probably understand from the content of her webinar today, she helps her clients do more with less, go farther with current resources, and learn about technology and how to make their organizations stronger and better. Data Conversion Laboratory is a data conversion company that starts with ebooks and goes all the way up to automated conversion of millions of documents at a time. We are US based and we can pretty much handle it all. We transform content. As you can see, that takes a lot of different forms. And we serve a great many industries, including society publishers. And you can find out more about us and our services again at dclab.com. So we're going to open the floor up to questions. There's the DCL contact information there. And again, if anything comes to mind from the course of the webinar, please go ahead and ask in the question bar. We have a few to get started that we've been gathering over the course of the hour. So Barbara, we're going to start with this one. What are some of the changes you've observed in membership over the years?
Well, I think the most significant change that I've found is the number of individuals in any discipline who do not find the society as important and integral a part of their professional lives. This has decreased dramatically over time. It's particularly true with recent generations. Many of the young professionals don't recognize the value of networking offered by societies can really be much greater than their own networking through social media. Few young professionals really have the opportunity for personal access to the leaders in the field, oftentimes Nobel laureates, and yet they are in attendance at society annual meetings and educational programs. So we need to look at some ways at the society's network as being a rich opportunity to leverage when we meet next month and in the future. I think that's going to make a very big difference in how young people view societies and their potential place in their lives.
Great, thank you so much. And I just want to remind the audience too that we are not taking hand raises. I have disabled that function, but if you're looking for it in your webinar and that's how you've communicated via webinars in the past, just remember that we're only using the question bar today. Okay, our next question, Barbara. When facing a group of colleagues with the traditional NTOH mindset, what approach would you recommend to help turn them around? And I would also add to that, perhaps you could just do a quick recap of NTOH. Yes,
the not thought of here attitude, and we all experience that. It's unfortunately prevalent in a great many organizations, but I think it is starting to break down. But I think that one of the best ways of convincing people about a new idea, a new way of thinking, might be better shown by an example from my own area. I believe in leading by example, and there were several times in my career where I was the only woman in a room filled with male and much older scientists and engineers who, quite frankly, were quite skeptical about what I might bring to the table. We are especially talking the 70s and early 80s. Mm. And so the way I eventually turned them around was pretty much by doing my job the best way I could. Even if it meant going against the status quo, they usually eventually recognized that my ideas at least deserved a hearing. And so I think that's something that many of us, no matter what time in our careers, are faced with. And so we have to be a little patient because, as we all know, some people really are truly change averse. And so one needs to hang tough, be patient, and keep doing a great job.
I do want to add to that, too, that while I know we are focused on societies and society publishers today, I think that's fantastic advice across many industries. I would give that advice to most of our clients, so thank you for that. Okay, we have the last one here. If anyone, again, has any questions, I'm taking more, but this seems to be the last one so far. You spoke about changes in member preferences happening because there are products and services that compete with society benefits. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, yes. Of course, having come from societies in my early days, I grew up with the motto that, you know, our books are different, our publications are special, each one of our journals are unique. But we all know in our heart of hearts that that really isn't true. So our first line of competition, as we've come finally to recognize to some degree over the years, is with our sister societies and also trade associations, because we're all competing now for meeting attendees, book buyers, readership, volunteers. As we especially know, people are members of multiple organizations, so an individual can only afford so much pro bono activity in his or her life, and especially in a given period. So I often speak about the need to open up government to more members, to, number one, decrease burnout, number two, infuse the organization with new perspectives and energy, and hopefully start having involvement by the leaders of the future. And finally, also when it comes to educational programs, the competition is even greater. Many commercial operations now provide conferences, topical meetings, workshops with the shining lights in the field and professional speakers that often outshine what we within the societies can sometimes produce. By expecting non-members to be willing to offer their knowledge and time for free, as we volunteers do, we often run the risk then of not being able to broaden the quality and scope of our meeting programming. So it's often a little too late to the party to block entry by commercial enterprises who have now gotten a very good reputation for delivering quality materials. In publishing, that has certainly been the case for decades. After World War II, the commercial publishers started strong and have maintained a very solid reputation within our communities, and that will not change. And so we must recognize that we're going to have competition for our members and our communities' time, attention, and money for many, many years to come. And that's not a bad thing, because I've always thought you're only as good as your competition. So bring on the best.
That's wonderful advice. I think we don't have any more questions, so we will be wrapping up. Barbara, thank you so much again for joining us. I want to let everybody listening know that DCL will be sending out an overview email shortly of all of our October webinars, which will include a link to register for Barbara's next webinar with our own Mark Gross. We will also be sending a reminder closer to the date, since it is toward the end of October. We hope you will join us for that, and hopefully the 3rd also. Thank you so much for joining us today. Barbara, thank you again.
Oh, thank you. It was quite a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.